Okay, we're starting, this I think is Math 108, video number 16. We got to start stuff about statistics. That's our next job. Okay, so let me get my drawing gear in gear. Let's get my pencil, and we can start putting this stuff up. Okay, so where is it in your book? In your book, it's called Gathering and Organizing Data, Picturing Data. That's 11.1, 11.12, and it's connected to homework 11. So here's how I want to start. Let's just call it statistics and keep it simple. All right, so let's say you have a bunch of raw data, right? So this is going to take me a while. I'm going to put a bunch of raw data on the board, and it's going to be 30 pieces of raw data. Call them, let's say, the weights of people in a class. Just a way of imagining what's going on here. And what do I have? I've got 6 on each line. My next line, it's all rated. We just have each person file in, get weighed, and someone jots down the numbers. That's all that's happening here. It is raw data. Okay, but I'm picking the numbers, or these numbers are somewhat carefully chosen from a problem in a book, because it keeps it simple and we can explain it better that way, I believe. Okay, so bear with me. We've got 30 numbers here, so we've got a little bit more to go. 105. And if you're taking notes, then you should jot all these numbers down yourselves, etc. Okay, line number 4. Sorry. Here are the weights. 130, 125, 120, 120. Okay, 90, 130, 140, 115, 125, and lastly 115. Okay, now what if you had to do, that's the raw material right there. Let's call it problem number 1. Makes it easier to keep track of. Let's say you were asked to give a frequency table. So obviously I have to tell you what that means. Hold on, but let me write it down. Let's say you were asked to use that raw data and come up with a frequency table. Here's what you do. You'd start with the smallest in weight, 90, and then you scan through the data. You can see that there's a 90 here, and there's nothing smaller than 90. Then you'd scan through the data. You'd see there's a 95 after that. There's at least one of these. If there's at least one of them, put it on. So then comes 100. Then comes 105. And even if there was none of them, you could still put, if you're doing in intervals of 5 pounds, so then you might want to even put something that doesn't exist with a 0, and you put a 0 next to it. You'll see what I mean in a second, I believe. Anyway, there are some 105. There is at least 105. There's at least 110. There's at least 115. At least 120. At least 125. At least 130. At least 135. And at least 140. So next to none of these will I have to say 0. You might be seeing where I'm going with a frequency table. So here's the left side of the table. This is a frequency table. And here's what we do next. Right next door, you write the amount of times 90 shows up. So you count the 90s in here. Count the 90s. There is only one 90. You count up the 95s. There are 3. That's how frequent 95 comes up. 100 is only 1. You can cross them out if you want. As you go, you can cross them out. It might be easier. Let's say we finished with the 90s, you would cross it out. I don't have to, but I'm just giving you a suggestion of how to keep track. 105s, there are 2 of them. 110, there are 2. You can do this yourselves. You can stop, if you're doing this video at home, you can stop the video and actually do it yourself. 115, there are 4 of them. 120, there are some, but there's more on this video, so don't come back to the video if you do it yourself. 120 is 7, 125 is 4. That's how frequent that is. 130 is 3. 135, there's only 1, and 140, there are 2 of them. There's your frequency table. That's all it is. Nothing more complicated than that. Okay, now, what if you're asked to organize this frequency into a bar graph? Might be called different names in different books, but for our purposes, we're calling it a bar graph. But you'll be able to see, at least when they show you a picture, you'll see exactly what this means. So we're going to still use this data. We're using more than once. All this data right over here, all this data. We've used it once to show a frequency table. Now we want to use the same data and our frequency table, and we want to make a bar graph. We're going to use our frequency table to do that. So what is the smallest number that occurs over here on the frequency? Let me get over here, the frequency. What do we see? What are the numbers of how much they occur? The smallest is 1. Then there's, and then what's the highest? Look at really the highest. Next thing you should look for is the highest, which is 7. So we need something going from 1 to 7. So here's 1 frequency, 2, that'll be the y-axis of our bar graph, right? The y-axis of a bar graph is a y-axis and an x-axis. Then comes 4, then comes 5, then comes 6, and then comes 7. Okay, there's the frequencies. That's the y-axis. Over here will be the weights on the x-axis. So this we'll start off with 90, that's our smallest weight. The next one will be 95. The next one will be 100. Next one, I need a little room here, 105, 110, 115, 120, 125, 130, 135, and 140. It's a little crude, but it can show what we need to show. So 90, how many 90s are there of the pounds? Look at your frequency table. There's 1. So bring the bar up to 1, and that's it. And you color this in if you can. Right? I don't want to bother coloring the whole thing in. Now, for 95, how many 95s are there? There are 3. So bump this up to the 3 level of the y-axis. So this bar goes up to 95. What about 100? Where is it? It's going to be a little uneven, my graph. Just pardon me. Some will be fatter than the others. And normally, when you're doing this carefully, and with better tools, maybe you're going to have them. They're pretty much the bars will look the same. But mine's going to be a little fatter here. So where does 100 go up to? Look it up. It says over here. You look it up. It says 1. All right. So bring the bar up to only 1 right here. That's wrong. But I'm not bothering with the eraser. What about 105? Look it up. It's 2. Okay, so that gets bumped up to, if 105 is 2, so this bar goes up to 2. Right? It's supposed to be 2. What about 110? Look it up. It's 2 again, so stay on the same level. 110 is also 2. 115 is 4. Bump that up to 4. Bump that up to 4, 115. 120 is 7. That gets bumped up completely all the way up to 7. That's 120. Sorry about this. It's a lousy drawing, but what can you do? But I think you can see you can get the gist of how this is supposed to work. 125 is a 4, and obviously you'll have better pictures in your book. 4. 125 goes up to 4. 130 is 3. So where's 3? Around here. 3 is around here. That's 130. 135 is just 1, so way back down again. And 140 is 2. That gets bumped up to 2. Lousy looking graph, but it does the trick. This is much fatter than the others. And that goes up to 2, and that's your bar graph. You can fill them up in with colors, whatever you like. And obviously you can do a much better job than I do with this software. On the board, even I would do a little better job than this if I was just doing a regular board. But here we are. Okay, so that takes care of some crucial information about dealing with data. All right, so we're going to end this video. It's going to be relatively short, and we'll go on with more statistics in the next video. So this, I think, is video 16108, I believe. Okay.